of this growth and part of this challenge that we're facing will need some investment. We need to be able to invest and understand how our business is going to benefit from the digital economy. And we have a panel of seasoned experts that are going to help us through that. It's going to be led by somebody who has asked me specifically not to mention that he's an industry veteran, so I'll say he's an industry stalwart. He was the Chief Research Officer at Informa and Ovum for many years and has recently joined the TM Forum as our Chief Analyst. I've got great pride to introduce to you now Mr. Mark Newman.
Morning, everybody. Now, I don't know about you, but I spend a lot of time at industry conferences. I love hearing from the CEOs, the CTOs, the CSPs, the technology suppliers. But what I think a lot of conferences lack is a view from the money guys, the guys that have the ear of the CEO. And I hate to say it, but often the CEO spends as much time taking his guidance from the money guys as from his own internal teams. So, with great pleasure, introduce you to the panel session this morning. We have one of the world's leading, largest investment banks, one of the world's largest advisory firms, one of the world's largest enablement companies. And we have a session called Investing in Telecom, Valuing Businesses in Today's Digital Economy. So joining me on stage today, we have Duarte Begonha. And Duarte is an expert partner business technology office within McKinsey. Andrew Feinberg, President and CEO of Netcracker, and Nick Pomponi, Managing Director, Software and Services Sector, Goldman Sachs. Please join me in welcoming the panelists onto the stage. So that's the first intelligence test pass. You sat in the right seats with no guidance, so well done, guys. So, Nick, maybe I can start with you. Start with the money guy. What better place to start? So, when you look at telecom stocks today, how differently do you look at them from a valuation perspective from 5, 10, 15 years ago?
Sure. So we always think about it through the lens that the investor thinks about it. And what I would say is investors think about where we are today at an extremely interesting time. I'd say one of the more interesting times since really the rollout and adoption of mobile. And I think when you look at a lot of the themes that have already been talked about this morning, investors are really excited about the opportunity. They're really excited about the disruption, the creation of ecosystems, and I think they see more opportunity ahead than behind. I'd say the one thing, though, is investors are a bit cautious about it, and I'd say they're really focused on a couple of areas. The caution really comes from, ensuring that with a lot of this disruption, the business models that are going to follow are ones that are, really competitively different, but also sustainable. And the second thing that they think about is a lot of this innovation and a lot of this disruption that's going to happen over the next 3, 5, 10 years does require a lot of CapEx, right? There's a significant amount of capital investment that needs to go into delivering on a lot of what's already been talked about this morning. And for better or for worse, in the communications industry, they are very cash generative and generate a lot of cash. And so as folks start to develop and expand these business models and they have to put major capital investments against it, investors are concerned and want to be thoughtful that companies are really thinking about their ability to continue to pay their dividend, continue to pay and return cash out to shareholders, and really ensure that the investments that they're making today, are the right ones that are really going to, do once and build on top of, and not have to continue to go back to the drawing board to keep that cash flow coming.
And so, in your role, you look across telecoms, internet technology. So, when we think about telecoms, they see telecoms operators being more like utilities. And is that a trend or?
I'd say less like utilities, only because the pace of innovation is really different. And I think they view the telecom industry really is one where there is a lot more upside from the growth standpoint.
Yeah.
But they also see that there's a way to do it in a way that also doesn't disrupt their own business model, and they can really do it in a sustainable way. And so I think they view that as, investors think about generating alpha, return above what the index is, and I think they see that much more in this sector than they do in something like a utility.
Okay, and Duarte, maybe I can just hand over to you. So, at McKinsey, when you look at the telecoms industry and you work across multiple industries, is telecoms as attractive to you today as it was 5-10 years ago?
I share Nick's point. I think it depends from the angle you look for. If you look from a pure financial investment perspective, it's probably not the most attractive industry these days. So if you see what is happening with cash flows and with kind of with revenues, there's a lot of decline. I think particularly in Europe, we're not living the best days of the telco industry compared to the early 2000s and between 2000 and 2010. Huge growth. I think it was kind of the El Dorado industry in Europe. Today, this is not the reality. But at the same time, I think the good news and the other flip of the coin is that if you look from a technology and innovation perspective, what is happening today with all this digital revolution and with all kind of robotics, IoT, virtual reality, all the things around, for instance, like autonomous driving, all this is quite exciting because all this requires telecommunications networks, all it requires reliable kind of services. So I think it's a kind of a two-sided view. So I think we just need to basically ensure that telcos are able to capture part of this growth and this kind of innovation story. And I think we can have, again, a very healthy industry coming back.
Thank you. And Andrew, as an enabler of CSPs, is your fate inextricably linked with them? And is that something that you're comfortable with?
CSPs is a very tricky term.
Right? Okay, telecoms operators.
So
okay.
we have to start probably by defining this, but I think there's a two-part answer to this. We see what we used to call telcos, what you refer to as CSPs. Of course, the world is consolidating, so there are fewer and fewer players. That in that sector gives us fewer potential customers, but those are investing much, much heavier into the future, into digitalization. They understand as they kind of map out their operating cash flows for the future, they know that they must make those investments. And we're seeing significant outlays of capital going into what we do. How do we move to digital? How do we move to cloud? How do we virtualize? The other very interesting trend that we're seeing is that, and we'll hear about it over the next couple of days extensively, the world is moving to mobile. It's mobile first.